color is the sky on your planet? If your answer is blue, obviously, I'm going to push on that a bit. Because why blue? Yeah, it's nice and works here on Earth, but does it have to be blue? What would it take for your world to look totally alien, not just blue with a filter? The sky isn't just decoration. It's the evidence of a chain of physics that starts with your star and doesn't end until it hits the back of your character's eyes. And if you understand how that chain works, you can engineer your world to truly be unique without any hand waving at all. Alright travelers, today we're talking about stars, specifically how your star determines what your world feels like. The colors, the quality of your shadows, the pigmentations in your plants, the length of your year. It all traces back to one decision before you name a single character or draw a single coastline. The type of star you have your world orbiting makes all the difference. I say this next phrase constantly to anyone who will listen. Nothing exists in a vacuum. Every element of your world is downstream of something else. Your geography shapes your cultures shape your myths shape your magic system, and all of it is downstream of your star. We take this completely for granted as humans because we only have one data point. Our sun, our sky, our green plants. We just assume that planets are this way. But it's not. This is just what our planet looks like. Because of our star. Change the star and you pull on a thread that unravels and reweaves the entire tapestry. So let's go ahead and pull on that thread, shall we? Stars are classified using something called the Morgan-Keenan system. It organizes them from largest hottest to smallest coolest. And a star's size immediately does something practical for world builders. It sets the habitable zone. The habitable zone, sometimes called the Goldilocks zone, is the orbital range around a star where water can exist as a liquid on the surface. Too close, it boils off. Too far, it freezes solid. At least with carbon-based life forms that use water as the solvent, we need that liquid water. And so if a star is going to have carbon-based water solvent life, it's going to be in the Goldilocks zone as we define it. Our sun, Sol, is a G2V type star. It's pretty average as far as stars go in our galaxy. Sol's habitable zone reaches from 0.95 AU to 1.35 AU, and our Earth sits at 1 AU. Yes, we formulated the measurement around our planet's distance to the sun. So we sit right there where it's nice and cozy for life to exist. And it's that distance from the sun that also gives us our 365-ish day year. Now, Zeer's star is a K2V type star, also known as an orange dwarf. It's smaller, dimmer, cooler, and the habitable zone sits much closer in than it does for Earth. Zeer's orbit sits at 0.4 AU, which maths out to about a 99 Earth day solar year, or if you account for Zeer's shorter rotation period, 119 Zeer days. Yes, that does seem short by our standards, but you gotta remember it's relative. Someone living on Zeer is not going to think, wow, that's a really short year. It's just how time passes for them. What would be different would be their breeding seasons, their harvests, their religious ceremonies, anything that we have pinpointed onto our 365-day cycle. It's going to be utterly different and almost unrecognizable on a planet that has a shorter year. Again, it wouldn't seem strange to them. Their cosmology is just a different creature. On top of that, Zeer doesn't have an axial tilt, and its orbit is nearly circular. So seasonal variations don't apply on Zeer the same way that they do here on Earth. Zeer does have seasons, but it's driven by a completely different mechanic, but that is going to be a video all of itself. The point is that one decision, the star type, immediately cascades into year length, calendar systems, cultural rhythms, and mythological framework. All of that just because of what type of star you got. Hold on to your seatbelts because it's going to get even more interesting when it comes to visual media. Every star peaks at a particular part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Bigger, hotter stars peak in the shortwave high energy range, so ultraviolet, blue-white, those frequencies. Smaller, cooler stars peak in the longer wave, lower energy range. Orange, red, infrared. Sol, again our star, peaks in yellow-green. And that goes on to produce 3 significant effects that we take for granted every single day. Number 1, our blue sky. Earth's atmosphere scatters shorter energy waves better than it does longer ones, aka blue light. This is called Rayleigh scattering, and it's the reason that our sky appears blue at midday and Sol looks white or yellow-white overhead. Number 2 is our green plants. Chlorophyll optimizes to absorb red and blue light, the 2 color spectrums on either side of Sol's yellow-green peak. Green light is so abundant that plants can reflect it away cheaply. That's why plants are green, and also why plants aren't black. Absorbing every wavelength would, in theory, be more efficient, but in practice, it would basically cook the plants. Reflecting the most available wavelengths is an elegant thermal compromise that evolution locked in early on. And number 3, UV pressure. Sol produces enough ultraviolet light to be a consistent evolutionary pressure. This is part of the reason why a complex life has developed protective pigmentations, cellular repair systems, and the DNA damage response machinery that allows complex life to be viable. Now, Zeer's K2V star peaks in the orange-red frequencies. Pull that same thread and you get a completely different world. Going back to the sky, the light on Zeer appears as warmer and richer than it does on Earth. The star itself would appear in the sky as a soft amber orange at midday. But of course, I had to go and make things even more complicated, because each one of Zeer's 6 planes has its own atmospheric chemistry. Let's use the water plane as an example, the plane whose atmosphere most closely resembles that of Earth's. The sky is going to appear a rich electric cobalt blue as opposed to Earth's cyan. It would feel more saturated. It would just feel more. And that's not artistic license, that's the physics. So what about photosynthesis? Well, with red-orange now being the peak emissions bandwidth, the cheap wavelength to reflect shifts accordingly. Zeer's primary photosynthetic organisms are going to tend towards cooler colors, bluer green, silver, deep purple. Green isn't losing the evolutionary race per se, but it's not winning by the same margin as it does here on Earth. This would potentially produce a forest that looks fundamentally different without just having to say, ooh, look, purple trees. And that third point, UV pressure, well, it's going to be a little bit more relaxed on Zeer because the sun just doesn't produce as much ultraviolet light. It doesn't mean that UV pressures are gone from the evolutionary spectrum, but they're going to function differently, causing Zeer organisms to evolve different pigmentation strategies. I haven't precisely figured out yet what that looks like, but I know that that is something to pay attention to. So why go through all of this? Why not just say, the sky's blue because it looks nice? Because I want more than nice. And I think you do too, otherwise you wouldn't be here. The original question that I had in mind when I started down this particular research path was, is there a scientific way so that colors appear more saturated and richer than they do on Earth? Because I wanted Zeer to have that type of dramatic visual effect without it just being hand-waving or artistic visual effects. Zeer is being built for transmedia narrative. I'm starting with books, but eventually it's going to evolve into animation and hopefully video games. And I really hate retconning, so in the future, when an artistic director is like, why does everything look this way? I don't want to not have an answer. I want to be able to say, because that's actually how it works there. Zeer is myth made physical. The drama isn't just decoration, it's built into the physics of the world. The saturated skies, the strange colored forests, the romantic lighting, it's all downstream of a K2V star that just so happens to sit at 0.42 AU from the sun. No hand waving, just very specific architecture. And the best part is, you can do this too. Pick a star type, follow the cascades, see what your world would become based on those variables. Constraints aren't limitations. It gives you an opportunity to lean into certain points to support your narrative. That's all I've got for you this week. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you'd like to support my work, you can head on over to Substack at www.worldofzeer.com. As a paid member, you'll get access to more Zeer lore articles, early drafts, and behind-the-scene musings. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.